comments. There was an excellent presentation on stack. Now we'll be going ahead with what else is not stack in foot. I think it's fine. It's fine.
People are black and they see.
You are able to see the slide show well? Fine. So,
Lights are clear, we need to stop the lights. Right, clear. Good.
So we shall be discussing what else is in foot and ankle that is not stack. All is not stack in foot. So here we'll be discussing about how to make a balanced foot frame for other problems, for talar problems, for foot problems, for ankle problems, various problems. So how to make a balanced foot frame, how to make a painless deformity correction frame, how to make an orthodesis frame, we'll come to know through this presentation. So this is my own modification of stack. Can this be adjusted a little bit more? The trapezium. A lot of the slides getting cut. So this is my own personal stack, which my own modification. Since Dr. Kirpat has introduced the stack frame, it is modern for umpteen number of modifications, each with its own benefits and pitfalls. But there are many number of surgeons doing stack as number of modifications that are already in the market. So this is the component that I use for stack, but I will not be discussing about these. But to make a balanced foot frame, we need to use certain components which are not that often used in routine Ilizaro surgery in tibia. So apart from the usual half rings, we use short connecting plates. These are short connecting plates. Can you have the pointer please? One pointer please. So we need to have short connecting plates, we need to have short rod, we need to have axial hinges, polyaxial hinges, and we can make a very good frame. We also need what is called a long connection plate, which are very infrequently used, particularly in foot and deformity correction surgeries. These are short connecting plates, and these short connecting plates come in various forms. These are of various lengths. These are curved connecting plates. These are connecting plates with curved ends, with extremely curved ends. There are twisted plates. All these have their own role in making a foot frame. So I will be discussing their role shortly. And about the introduction of wires, we'll be discussing it in one part of the session. So I'll be telling about the frame. These are the static foot rings. So the ready-made rings which have no intrinsic movement in between. They are used in simple situations like equinus correction or as an equinus protection in long bone transports. You have in carbon, you have in steel, you have in aluminium, you have in titanium. The same static foot ring can be made using simpler components with half rings and long connecting plates, half rings and plates with threaded ends, in coronal plane, in sagittal plane, in transverse plane. These are the basic methods of making a static foot ring. And how to make a dynamic foot frame. These are depending upon the deformity that we are addressing. This is to address a forefoot abduction or adduction. In that case, you have a forefoot ring and a hindfoot ring connected by threaded rods and of varying lengths, and this is pre-correction, this is post-correction. The same thing from a different angle, this is pre-correction and this is post-correction. If you have a foot with chaos, here is where we use twisted plates to bridge between the forefoot and the hindfoot. This is the twisted plate that accommodates the cavus, and this is post-correction using threaded rods. Hope these are clear for you. And foot cavus can also be addressed by a coronal plane foot ring, and this is how we address the foot cavus. This is at the end. It looks like an igloo again. If you are managing an equinus, you can have a static foot frame along with hinges at the level of the cora, and neutralize distraction assembly will come during the surgery here, and neutralizer assembly in the forefoot. So this is the patient which we already discussed. There was a hip deformity which we addressed in the second sitting. The patient initially underwent equinus correction along with tibial lengthening. This girl, this was the foot ring that we used. We are using a double tibial ring. You know why? What is the reason we are having double tibial ring here? We have to lengthen the tibia here. There is true shortening here. So you have to correct the equinus, that will make apparent the existing shortening. So we have to do the lengthening here to correct the tibial lengthening. So this is our plan: approximate tibial corticotomy for lengthening and equinus correction frame as we have planned. So this is the post-operative. This is the equinus correction assembly. A hinge in the posterior side will do the deformity correction. This is the forefoot neutralizer. This is post correction. You can see the foot is plantigrade. completely on the so heel is touching the ground, but because of the true shortening, we need to do the lengthening now. And while lengthening, this is a corticotomy. There was a mild displacement during the corticotomy, almost mid-diaphyseal corticotomy here. And while lengthening, we noted that the proximal tibia was translating anteriorly and the distal tibia was translating posteriorly, which we found it not acceptable. We can accept it, but the patient emphasized on correcting it. So we added this assembly here. These are what we call translational correction assemblies. These assemblies will correct the translation gradually. You can do it also abruptly. There is a technique for it. We'll be discussing it in the deformity correction session. So here we are doing it in a gradual manner, and by pushing this fragment anteriorly, we are correcting this apparent dent. So this is pre-correction, this is during correction, and this is post-correction, and the callus is consolidating. The regional red is consolidating well. The foot ring was removed because the deformity is holding well. Then once the corticotomy is consolidated, we remove it. Remove the foot leg frame also. This is the hip deformity that the patient had. That was also addressed later on. This we have already discussed. If the same patient had a cavus, then that foot frame will be a dynamic foot frame with two twisted plates on either side connected with the angle, and this will be the initial assembly. And once the deformity in the cavus is corrected, the assembly which was looking like this before will become like this. You see, this much amount of correction has been achieved. The rod has gone up. Now keep looking at this rod, you'll know how much further correction we'll achieve by correcting the equinus. Now we have corrected the equinus also. Hind foot ring is coming down. This rod is pushing the hind foot ring down. Much amount of rod has gone out. So now it is foot in neutral. Cavus disappeared. Completely normal plantigrade foot. The same thing can be used in combination when there is a equinovalgus with forefoot abduction deformity. There is a forefoot abduction deformity. There is a patient with meningomyelocele, operated with zither cord and all that. This was a deformity. It was a painful foot with shortening. So this was a normal foot. This was the affected foot. So we had an assembly for lengthening proximally. We had a dynamic foot frame, a forefoot frame that is in the coronal plane, and a hind foot frame which is in the transverse plane, and these are connected with threaded rod with hinges. This is another way to manage forefoot abduction, abduction, and here selective distraction we can correct the foot deformity, and you can address the tibial lengthening. These are Elizero's original pictures from bone models. Here, when you are correcting such a huge forefoot abduction, what happens was, to bring all these five metatarsals together to the normal position, what happens is one or two of them start lagging behind. So we have to have a system to hold more than one metatarsal, more than two metatarsals together. So Elizero suggested having olive wires in the second metatarsal, dedicated olive plantarwards to dorsalwards, and one more in the second metatarsal, one more in the first metatarsal, then the rest of it through a single transmetatarsal wire. So this principle we use in this particular patient. This is a zoomed in picture. You can see the third metatarsal held by another separate olive traction wire, second by another separate traction wire, and the rest of it by a single wire. Here we have used a similar assembly. I think I have used second and the first in this case. And this is the equinus. This is the forefoot abduction, and all this is corrected gradually. What happens if there is a polyaxial foot deformity? It's a very common deformity. What is it? Talipes equinovarus, CTEV. So here we use the same principles. You use a forefoot ring, you use a hind foot ring. When you do a selective discussion, you correct the forefoot adduction, adduction, and you also correct the equinus, you also correct the hind foot varus through a selective destruction of these two. This is the posterior view. So this is the clinical picture. And while for correcting equinus, you distract both these together. For correcting hind foot varus, you distract this more than this, and for correcting forefoot abduction, you distract more of this and less of this. All these are non-operative corrections. By meaning, you are only introducing wires. You have not used your scalpel. You have not shed a single drop of blood. These are called non-operative foot deformity correction. There is also what is called operative foot deformity correction, which uses osteotomies or orthodesis. So osteotomies are very versatile. You can use calcaneal osteotomies, you can use a U osteotomy, you can use a V osteotomy. This patient is what apparently is looking like a cavus is actually a calcaneus. It's a calcaneus deformity, reverse of equines. So here, osteotomy, operative correction will give you a more result. Calcaneal osteotomy with distraction posteriorly and superiorly, that will give you a normal plantar foot. Similar assembly here. And calcaneal osteotomy can also be used to correct cavus associated with calcaneus in this manner. This is how a U osteotomy is done. It is just from lateral side, just below the lateral malleolus, you make a U-shaped osteotomy. There are special chisels meant for it. You can use your own normal group chisels to achieve this result. This is the picture I borrowed from Dr. Tipat. Here we have done a new osteotomy to correct the calcaneus, equinus as well as hindfoot lengthening. This is the manner to achieve a dome. You do multiple drill holes and pass K-wires, keep passing K-wires, and the previous K-wire will guide you to the next drill hole. And keep connecting them in the necessary manner. If you want to make a V, if you want to make a U, accordingly you can play with the process. This is how we drive the motor of the U osteotomy. A V osteotomy is done in a similar manner. This is the open approach we no longer follow. We use only a percutaneous approach. A small 2 cm incision just below the lateral malleolus, and the terminal tendons are retracted downwards, and the osteotomy is completed. This is another C-arm. This can be used for correcting cavus. It can be used for correcting calcaneus. It can be used for lengthening the foot. There are various options. Imagination, you should spread your imagination, and you can use it for a number of uses. Then coming to arthrodesis. In ankle arthrodesis, there are various indications you should all be aware of. You should be doing ankle arthrodesis by open approaches. You should be using Charnley clamps and Calendrusio clamps and all that. Ilizro offers a foolproof result in such situations. Here, apart from compressing the tibio-talar assembly, there is also an assembly to compress the malleolus against the lateral facets of the talus. If you are generally the preferred approach here is transmalleolar approach. Usually you have a malleolar fracture. It's a complicated one where you are going in for arthrodesis. So through the malleolus, if you go by the lateral malleolus, this is the assembly. If you go by the middle malleolus, this is the assembly. And once you freshen the edges, achieve axial compression, and you compress the malleolus that you have denuded onto the lateral surfaces of the talus here, or here onto the medial facet of the talus, and you achieve a solid, rock solid union. This is one patient of calcaneus, of neuropathic ankle that has undergone ankle arthrodesis. Here you can see those two traction wires that are pulling the lateral malleolus onto the lateral facet of the talus. And this rotation is very important. Foot should be arthrodesed in neutral. Now, not in equinus, not in calcaneus, it should be arthrodesed in neutral, and always give some 15 degree of external rotation. That will be very useful for the patient to walk. The same principles can be used in subtalar arthrodesis and triple arthrodesis. You used here the arched wire principles. And what about foot frame in trauma? We all know the role of Jess in foot injuries, but there are certain situations where Ilizro comes in more handy, more useful than Jess. Like for example, Lisfranc's fracture dislocation, complicated metatarsal injuries and all that. This is what I call the trauma foot frame. This frame is a very versatile frame. It can address multiple problems. There is a tibial ring. You can use it in any level, usually the mid-tibial level. There is a transverse foot ring, there is a coronal foot ring. There are 2 foot rings actually here, 4 foot rings. There is 1 hind foot ring, and these are connected by double threaded rods on either side. You have to play with the length of the threaded rod according to the need. You can give traction through these assemblies. You can apply traction through these or through threaded rods, and you can also use mini Ilizro fixated in such situations. For a Lisfranc fracture dislocation, we offer axial traction, then olive wire assisted reduction, and all this can be done percutaneously without even having to open the fracture site. This is a patient with Lisfranc fracture dislocation. He has underwent percutaneous reduction. This is the calcaneal foot ring. These metatarsal wires are pulling the foot axially, and once reduction is achieved, we are using crisscross olive wires to achieve the necessary compression mediolaterally. And in pylon fracture, they also very beautifully can be managed with Ellis rope without having to open it. There is no need for wound, there is no risk of wound complication, there is no risk of infection. And once you start doing Ellis rope in pylon, you will never ever think of using a distal tibial logging plate. So this is the usual assembly. This is one of my old cases. You can even stop with one ring, or you can use two rings here. This is the distal tibial ring. This is the calcaneal ring, which you can remove later. Pre-operatively, you can plan where all my olives should go. If there is a medial malleolus, you can of a adduction pattern injury where there is a split medial malleolus, your olive should go exactly mediolaterally. If there is a posterior malleolus, your wires from behind have to compress. So you can plan pre-operatively, keep the wires over it, plan the traction, counter traction measures before going into the surgery. It's like giving a trial run before the real match. Here we can see that we have achieved a very good head reduction. These are the CM pictures. Generally, CM pictures have to be done in a tricky oblique views because the rings come on the way. If you use carbon rings, we can get a better reduction. So this is a very reasonably done surgery. And then the post-operative result, the fracture is united in extended position. What about foot stabilization for leg fractures? If you are treating a leg fracture with Ellis rope, or if you are doing a long bone transport, we are prone to going for foot complications. We are prone to going for foot cavers or clawing or equine and all that. So how to prevent it? You can give a prophylactic foot ring, like how we have done in this case. So in this situation, we can also add this device, this translation device. This you can give mediolaterally. You can push and pull. You can correct the cavus, equinus, varus, all this through this single assembly to a limited extent. But if the equinus is very well established and it's you can't manage just by a 4-foot ring. You will have to have a hind foot ring, because here we have to appreciate that the equinus is at the level of the ankle joint, and it is the calcaneus that is calling for equinus. So we have to bring this arrow down to this position to achieve the appropriate direction. For that, we need to have a calcaneal ring. Just pushing it from the foot upwards will lead to a midfoot break, like generally we do after Ponseti correction. What do you do at the end of the fifth cast? Louder. TA tenotomy. Why not give 5 more casts and correct the equinus? Because the orthopedician's hands cannot bring the heel down. He can only push the foot upwards. So by pushing the foot upwards, he introduces inadvertently midfoot breakage, leading to an iatrogenic what foot? Rocker bottom foot. Exactly. So we are introducing an iatrogenic rocker bottom foot here by. So you do TA lengthening, bring the calcaneum down rather than pushing the forefoot upwards. So here we need to have a plantigrade foot with a normal foot arches and not a foot like this. This happens more frequently in charcuts, in neuropathic foots. So it's better to use a calcaneal ring to correct established equinus and use the 4-foot ring only as a neutralizer. Hope I have been clear so far. So this is just a rough introduction to the foot assemblies. You can keep expanding into it according to the indications. If there are any questions, doubts, apprehensions, I will be more than glad to answer. Thank you.
Next, please. Sushil, come on. Can you put on the lights, please? I'll ask all the faculty to come on the stage, and if there are any final questions before lunch, they can be answered, and then we can go for lunch. We'll do the workshop after lunch. Dr. Sweet Chaudhary is another faculty who has just arrived after a very hectic schedule, so I welcome him here on the stage. He is from nearby Ajmer, and he is also doing a lot of Lindra work these days. So the most surprising part is, we were all beginners 3 years back when we met in Delhi. Himanshu had to cancel his arrival because of demonetization crisis. And on the second day of demonetization of 1,000 rupee notes was the first time when we all met. And that was when the interest in Elizra was rekindled. Can we have the lights, please? Hotel wale bhai. Light jalao, bhai, light jalao. Light. So now food is ready. We will have a banquet at 7 p.m. The venue is only about 10 minutes from here. You can take an auto or cab. Banquet is free for all registered delegates because charges are included. In case you have got a spouse or guest along, you have to pay actual 1,500 to Dr. Ajit Guru. If you have registered for the conference, banquet is there. And in case you have got a spouse or an extra person, we'll have to make additional arrangements. It's in a banquet hall nearby. Now we can ask questions. Yes, Dr. Mantri.
Yeah, Dr. Mantri. Hello. My question to Dr. Mukherjee. Yes, sir. There is one or two questions. How long you should continue your drug regime? And when you just want to stop your drug regime, whether the patient avascular necrosis has been corrected or you want to give up because now it is failure of the treatment and you need a certain other option.
See what so far I have done. See, it is the pain which is guiding the treatment.
Okay.
It is the symptoms. The patient is very happy if he is pain-free. He is not bothered about the X-ray picture. He is bothered about his range of motion. He is bothered about his pain. As long as the pain is under remission, I am not bothered. But the thing is that this is an arthritis, secondary, which is causing AVN. So if you correct the arthritis, the thrombosis of the vessel goes away and the AVN corrects. So arthritis is not only in the hip, it is in the knee, it is in the spine, it is in the neck, it is in the shoulder. I can show you, and that is the reason you have got AVN in multiple sites, because arthritis is also at multiple areas. So it is the problem is ischemia of the femoral head. We are more concentrated on the mobility of the femoral head, but of the hip joint. But as a matter of fact, he is a low-grade, non-infective, inflammatory arthrosis all over the system. And
Usually, how long you continue the treatment?
We gave for 3 years.
3 years.
Because,
3 years.
3 years because of bisphospholates we had, and bisphosphonate need to be given 3 years. So it is the 3 years the minimum regime we have planned.
What is the activity level of you allow the patient in an initial period?
See, initial 2 months, I always advise the patient to use a silicone heel cap in the shoes, because the thumb of the heel transmits the impact to the femoral head, which is soft. So don't ask for more trouble. Hold the railing while you are stepping down the stairs. So 2 or 3, don't use a kick scooter. Use something like that. My patients are not advised bed rest unless and until it is a painful day that they can't go out. So on that day, you take rest. That is it.
And